All right. So for off the bat, pretty simple, obvious question, but what does information science mean to you?
I find that to be a tricky question because I think that it can mean a lot of things. Before I got a job here, before I applied for a job here, I wasn't that familiar with the term information science. But it turns out that I was doing information science. I just didn't call it that necessarily. So, um, what information science means to me is the study of how information comes to be, how people interact with it, how it is stored, used, shared in its multiple various forms. And so I think that that naturally means that it can be or has to be approached from a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different fields.
Out of curiosity, you mentioned you were using it in your previous field, but didn't know.
Yeah.
What were you doing, or like how were you using it on the daily?
Sure. So I got my doctorate, my PhD in human-centered computing, and my master's was in sociocultural anthropology. So what I was doing and what I do is I use anthropological methods. So I'm an anthropologist, and I study how people interact with internet technology or information communication technology. So I take a cultural approach, if you will, to how people use technology to interact with information. So essentially, a lot of that is, when we're interacting right now, we're exchanging information. And when you add a technology component into that, that's another way to share and mediate information. And what I find in information sciences is that it's really rigorous, both with a like computer science, data science angle, as well as like a social science bend.
So what does your daily life look like?
My daily life.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, as part of my work, I am constantly thinking about, honestly, with how people creatively get by in situations where things are constantly falling apart, and how they rely on social structures, how they kind of come up with solutions or creative ways, and how they enroll or how they bring in like technology, social media platforms, how they kind of make kind of their own ways of workarounds or strategies. And so I'm kind of like always analyzing and picking out ways to, it's like everything I see, I'm kind of like analyzing social interactions. I'm really interested in how people interact with the world and with each other.
Sounds like fun though. I mean, it
It,
could
it
be.
is. It is. I love like the thing that gives me goosebumps. I get to continue to explore that and be around people who are interested in hearing more about that, and then getting to like meet other people who push me in new directions. It's serious. It's a dream. Like, not to put too fine a point on it. Yeah.
Part of that exploration could be doing like research. Is there stuff you're passionate about that you'd like to share?
Sure. Definitely. So my primary, I call it a field site as an anthropologist. My primary field site is in Havana, Cuba, studying the way that people interact with the internet. I call it the Cuban internet because they build their own versions of the internet, but also interact with the World Wide Web. I've been studying that since 2014. It's usually communities that are overlooked by kind of the typical designs of technology. So either the people who put in the work to make like AI systems function, that have been called like ghost workers or invisible users, or people who are kind of considered like at the margins, who like the systems weren't designed to serve them, and so they naturally have to make up for these gaps in infrastructural systems. And so my students and I look at the ways that people themselves have to kind of form their own infrastructures. With my research, I often kind of push back, or not often, I always push back against usually like the most celebrated forms of technology, to try to tell a more realistic story of what people actually experience and what they're actually living.
Like, why should prospective college students or even people like who are early in their college career study information science?
I think it depends on the types of questions that they are interested in asking. If you find people are doing research here, that excites you, especially if the types of questions are exciting or the way that they are trying to answer those questions, which is something that we call methods. I think that is a really, really strong sign that maybe this is something that you want to look into.
Well, the fact that information science is such an interdisciplinary field could appeal someone from very like niche interests, even though it's
Exactly.
like something that you wouldn't really think would be covered in information science, just like from like the face value of it.
Exactly. That's a great point. And I think too, like, I did not come from like computer science. I didn't come from, when I started my doctoral program, I didn't know how to code. I wasn't from an engineering background, and I got my doctorate in engineering school. I knew a little bit about coding when I graduated. I didn't know a whole ton. But this just in, like, there's so much that you can do and learn. We need so many different types of knowledge and approaches, that it's not just about like understanding the world through information in a very specific way. And I think that's becoming even more relevant.
Yes, a fun question we could ask is if you could create a class,
Oh,
what would you what would it be called? What would it cover?
if I could create a class. I don't know. Part of me wants to be like the history and culture of like memes, of like hyper niche memes. And we just study like Wolverines memes, um and then like you have to like the person who gets like the most upvotes. No, and then we study like the nature of virality. Um, uh, I think doing something like that where we also like have to make TikToks and stuff in class and post them and study like that interaction would be fascinating.
But the cool thing is that it actually would be something that would be viable or that fits under the curriculum of even UMSI, which
Yeah,
is
for sure.
a really cool part.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, shifting gears a little bit, with AI growing in technological innovation, where do you see the field of information science going? Whether it's like in the next couple years, decade,
Specifically with AI.
or just in general too.
I'm so over AI. um, it's just, I mean, it's such a headache. And I could tell you that as an educator, as with all new technology, I don't know if anyone's giving you this spiel yet, but there's always fear mongering. With the invention of any new technology, society always freaks out. Okay. And you can like, there's this, I actually in class, I have this from like the early 1900s. There's this famous cartoon that has is like the invention of the telegraph, and there's these two people, a couple sitting in the park, much like we are now, but they're sitting at the base of a tree and they're facing opposite sides, and they both have little telegraphs on their laps, and they're like both consumed by, like, they're not talking to each other because the telegraph is bringing them apart, right? And I love this cartoon because it's like, okay, this has always existed, right? Technology and society interact, and it does shift us. I do think that AI is shifting the field in certain ways, and at the same time, my argument is that there's always going to be a human in the loop. And I think that the important thing is to never forget about that human in the loop, because oftentimes their contributions are made invisible. And not only does that exploit those people, but it also allows for biases to enter into systems in ways that are highly problematic. And that's where it's dangerous. So it's like, I think a lot of the times, the places where we're like, oh my gosh, AI, that's not where usually the problem is. It's in the places that we often don't know where to look. So I think the field of information science, the critical places where we can intervene are in listening, especially to people who study these intersections and who have been studying these for years, and who study these interplays between people and technology, society and technology from a critical standpoint. I also think that we need to push back against artificial intelligence. Like, what is our role as information scientists, right? And I think that we have a lot of important soul searching to do.
Well, with all new technology, there's always going to be like reservations. I know it's probably not information science related, but I rode in this self-driving car, and I really disliked it. I doubted its like capabilities, and I feel like it could be connected to information science, like how people are always going to doubt something. There could be a rationale behind it, or it could just because it's new. That was probably for me, but why do you think AI should be like slowed down, or like how would it be slowed down? I know you mentioned it, but
I think it's really important to question why. Is it good that, like, ChatGPT is generating all of this money? And who is it benefiting?
you're just like asking those critical questions of
Yeah. And then also, like, if with all of this movement around AI, I'm sure you've heard how bad it is for the environment. Like, how much cooling it takes to the data centers.
No, I have not.
So the data centers required to power AI systems, it requires so much water to cool those systems. It's abysmal. Like, if any corporation or organization says they care about the environment while simultaneously supporting more growth in the AI sector, I cannot believe that they care about the environment.
So, like, just me putting something into ChatGPT, like, the other day, just asking her for some random information, that itself could...
Yes, that's damaging the environment.
Interesting. It's actually really fascinating. I wasn't aware of that before, so...
It's incredibly harmful for the environment.
Yeah, that does not sound very pleasant, but...
It is not pleasant. It is not a, like, positive, happy thing. And I think where the future of information science should go is looking at how we can preserve life on this earth because it is in direct threat. And looking at other things like building more is actually going to directly contribute to our demise.
Well, it would be wonderful if the two could coexist in a healthy and ethical manner, but I'm not sure if that's possible.
I'm not sure if it's possible either. I think that like this large growth that we've kind of created and pushed towards is kind of at odds with that. And that's what like the world's leading scientists are telling us. And so I think that, you know, we have the ability to act. And I think also I think it's time, like students have the power to push back now and ask those hard questions.
Okay, what industries excite you within the field of information science?
Sure. So, oh my gosh, there are so many amazing nonprofits that are working with local communities to help build applications and partner with community organizations to build either like apps or even interface in other ways with information that help to address local needs. And I think that is like one of the coolest ways that I see and most impactful ways that I see information science being used. And also going into jobs still with like social media platforms, tech companies, and then you know UX is still a big one. I think I'm still really interested in like just again this broad interdisciplinary way that students apply this their degree, and especially as they start to go on in the degree program, finding like piecing together their interests as well as like getting research opportunities with professors, internship opportunities, and then kind of crafting that into where they want to be working. It creates a really powerful, I was going to say tool, but a powerful like platform, I'd say, to be able to kind of position yourself to go after the job that you want.
Well, the cool thing or fascinating thing about information science is that you can go into something like you mentioned UX design, so like designing the apps we use on the daily, or it could be in like pharmacy or finance, sports, like literally anything, as long as you're just making a difference with how people interact with it. But, well, thank you so much. It was a delight having you and learning from you too.
Yeah, thanks for the great questions.